Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in considering this bill further, we need to try and think about the practicalities of it and to try and take a practical approach to some of the issues that are bound to arise with new legislation. And I support what a lot of other members have said about some of those issues. Now, we're currently thinking a lot about Australia and its deportation of offenders from there, but we also should think about some of the issues that may arise where people are being deported or who are just arriving, indeed, from other countries. And some of those countries will not be friendly countries. Some of those countries will be places from which it is difficult to get information. We need to think about some of those issues as well. So it's in that light that I believe that the government should seriously consider and in fact adopt David Parker's SOP, because I think he raises a very good point in that the term identifying particulars used in Clause 9 and defined in Clause 4 as meaning the meaning which is in Section 32(5) of the Policing Act 2008 simply refers to the provision of name, address, date of birth, the provision of a photograph, fingerprints, palm prints or footprints. That's all the information that that section provides. So what we're going to get as a result of this bill, when it's enacted, is that information. Now, it seems to me that what we also need to be able to get at the border, if necessary, or as soon as possible after a person returns, whether from deportation or just arriving, is details of convictions. And as I've said, that may not actually be readily available from countries which are not friendly, cooperative, or just don't have the facilities or the capacity or indeed the intention of providing that information for us. So that information needs to be obtainable from the person concerned, because details of convictions are at the heart of the bill. It is that information that the rest of the bill actually depends on, and yet the bill seems to be deficient in not really attending to this issue of being able to adequately require the person concerned to give that information, and as soon as possible. So I think that David Parker's SOP, which would add the words, quote, and the details of any overseas conviction and overseas penalty for any such conviction of the returning offender, unquote, in Clause 9 is absolutely necessary. And I don't understand why the Minister is not seeing it in that light and actually adopting that SOP. And I heard what she said about this idea of a circular argument, but I don't think that washes at all. The point is this: the police or an immigration official or whoever is in the position of needing that information should be able to insist that that information be provided. It doesn't seem to me that that's in any other legislation. It doesn't seem to be in the Policing Act. I can't see it there. It's not in this legislation. And yet that's the information that is really fundamental to this legislation. And yet there's not even a requirement for a person to respond when asked to give details about convictions or penalties. So I think that for that reason, Mr. Chairman, this SOP by David Parker is one of those which should be adopted by the government. After all, what possible harm could it do anyway? I mean, what's wrong with being able to ask and insist on an answer to a question as basic as, do you have any convictions from the countries you've been in overseas, and what were the penalties and so on? That seems to me to be quite basic. Now, Mr. Chairman, I want to also move on to some of the other SOPs which have tabled and I think deserve consideration, and one of those is those that deal with Clause 37, and that's a very important clause because we all know that this legislation is going to require review. No, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Ross.
I move that the question be now put.
No, we've now been on this part for 2 hours, and I think it's been half an hour at least since I heard anything that was new. So I think the House is in a position to. The House is in a position to make a decision on the matter. The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The noes have it. A party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes opposed.
Maori Party.
2 in favour.
Act New Zealand.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
While the clerk's adding up the votes, I will remind people that it is the. I'll pretend I didn't hear, I think, but it is a requirement if people call for a division from a particular point of view to vote that way. I won't name the member who appears to have done the opposite. The ayes are 63, the noes are 58. The question will be put. We come first to the Minister's tabled amendment to clause 37. Those who are in favour of that amendment will say aye. The contrary will say no. The ayes have it. We come now to the Honourable David Parker's tabled amendment to part 2. Those who are in favour of that amendment will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes in favour.
Maori Party.
2 opposed.
Act New Zealand.
1 opposed.
United Future.
1 opposed.
The ayes are 44, the noes are 77. The amendment is not agreed to. Now we come to the 2 amendments in the name of Matera Ture, which I'm going to now rule out has been inconsistent with the bill as amended by the Minister's amendment. The question now is that part 2 as amended stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. Question now is that the schedule stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. The contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. Question now is that clauses 1 and 2 stand part.
Chair.
The Honourable Grant.
I wish I was.
Well, premature. Grant Robertson.
Thank you,